So, have you ever thought about how hard it would be to just simply disappear?
Oh, yeah. I mean, people talk about going off the grid, but actually doing it?
Right. Or better yet, how hard it would be to commit the perfect crime in the 21st century.
With all the surveillance we have now, nearly impossible.
Exactly. Well, today we are inviting you into a chilling but absolutely fascinating exploration of one of the most notorious cold cases in modern history, the Long Island serial killer.
Also known as the Gilgo Beach murders.
Yes. And for 13 years, this case was just a frustrating string of dead ends. Every lead seemed to evaporate. But then, a seemingly perfect crime spectacularly unraveled.
And it is a case that haunted New York and really the entire country for over a decade, the sheer audacity of it.
Yeah, the idea that a predator could operate just outside the largest city in America, leaving a trail of victims along a popular beach highway, and leave absolutely no trace.
Seemingly no trace.
Seemingly. And the mission of this deep dive into the source material is to explore exactly how law enforcement finally cracked this case. Because it's not just a true crime story.
No, it's a masterclass.
A masterclass in modern forensics data recovery and the undeniable reality of our digital footprints. Today's stack of sources is pretty dense, but incredible.
We've got a lot to go through.
We do. We're looking at official New York State court documents, including bail applications and superseding indictments. We also have a comprehensive timeline and news reports from CBS News.
Plus, a highly technical digital forensics breakdown from Evidence Solutions.
Right, and some really interesting psychological insights from the True Crime Today deep dive.
It's a remarkable collection of data to sift through. We are moving from the gritty, heartbreaking reality of a crime scene in the brush of Ocean Parkway to the invisible, permanent data pinging between cell towers and servers.
It really bridges the gap between old-school detective work and cutting-edge science, and I'm thrilled you're here to help guide us through it.
Happy to be here.
Because we're going to figure out how microscopic hairs and deleted search histories finally caught a killer. Okay, let's unpack this.
Where do we start?
Well, we know you are likely familiar with the basic lore of Gilgo Beach, so we won't dwell on the initial 2010 discovery for too long. But to set the stage, based on the CBS News timeline,
It starts with Shannon Gilbert.
right, it starts with a search for Shannon, an escort, who vanished after a frantic 911 call where she said people were trying to kill her. And during that search in December 2010, an officer and his Canine Blue find something else entirely.
They find what becomes known as the Gilgo Four: Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, and Maureen Brainerd Barnes.
The court documents lay out the specific, heartbreaking signature of this killer. All petite women, around 5 foot and 100 pounds. All sex workers.
And most notably, 3 of them were bound and wrapped in a burlap-type material.
Placed just 22 to 33 feet from the edge of the parkway.
It was an organized dumping ground. Eventually, the remains of 10 people were found in that brush, including a toddler and an Asian male.
The scale of the tragedy is just overwhelming. But looking through the court documents, there's one detail from before the bodies were even found that completely stops you in your tracks.
The phone calls?
The taunting calls. Back in July 2009, the killer used Melissa Barthelemy's phone to call her 15-year-old sister, Amanda.
It's just horrific.
Reading the transcripts of those calls, I actually had to put the documents down for a minute. He called this teenager repeatedly from the bustling center of Midtown Manhattan, openly admitting to the murder and sexual assault of her sister.
It is a level of psychological cruelty that goes way beyond just the physical crime.
It really is.
It shows a profound arrogance. He felt untouchable. He was standing in the most densely populated area of the country, using the victim's own phone, confident that the sheer volume of people and cell traffic would mask his identity.
And for a long time, he was right. Which begs the question, with the bodies discovered, the taunting calls from Midtown, the burner phones, how did this go cold for over a decade?
The CBS sources point directly to a massive internal failure.
The local police.
Yeah, at the time, Suffolk County Police Chief James Burke and District Attorney Thomas Spoda actively blocked cooperation with the FBI. They essentially walled off the investigation.
A later police commissioner described it as a dark cloud over the community.
Exactly. Both Burke and Spoda eventually went to federal prison for unrelated corruption and cover-ups. But because of that extreme dysfunction, the investigation was in total disarray.
Information wasn't being shared.
Databases weren't talking to each other.
And that dysfunction leads us to probably the most agonizing part of the early timeline, the lost tip.
Oh, Dave Schaller.
Yes, the CBS interviews highlight Dave Schaller. He was the roommate of Amber Costello, one of the Gilgo Four. The night before Amber vanished in 2010, Schaller actually physically fought with a suspect who had locked Amber in a bathroom.
He fought the serial killer.
He did. And he gave the police a phenomenal description. He described an ogre-like man about 6'4", driving a first-generation dark green Chevrolet Avalanche.
Think about how specific that is. A first-generation dark green Chevy Avalanche.
It's the ultimate lead.
But because of the disarray, that crucial tip was completely lost in a sea of unorganized information. It sat buried in a physical file for 12 years.
12 years. 12 years of a predator walking free because a piece of paper was misfiled.
It's tragic.
It really is. That brings us to February 2022. A new Gilgo Beach homicide task force is finally formed, bringing together local police, state police, the sheriff's office, and the FBI.
A proper team.
Right. And just 6 weeks into this renewed effort, a state investigator is reviewing the old files and spots, the Dave Schaller tip.
They run a simple database search for a first-generation Chevy Avalanche registered in that area at that time.
And it spits out a name, Rex Horman.
The moment that name hits the desk, the puzzle pieces start snapping together with terrifying precision.
He matches Schaller's physical description perfectly.
He is 6'4", 240 pounds. Furthermore, he's an architect who lives in Massapequa Park, Long Island, and his office is located right in Midtown Manhattan.
The geographic profile is a dead-center bullseye.
But matching a description and owning a truck isn't enough for an arrest.
No, you need more. And this is where we lean heavily into the digital forensics breakdown from Evidence Solutions. Investigators had to connect Horman to the burner phones used by the killer to contact the victims.
And make those horrific calls to Melissa's sister.
Right. But how do you do that when the data is over a decade old?
What's fascinating here is how investigators built a digital cage around him, even when the original data was seemingly gone.
Because cell companies delete that stuff, right?
Exactly. They have retention policies. They don't keep specific pinpoint cell tower location data for 10 years. Those exact GPS coordinates were purged.
So what do?
Investigators realized they could obtain Horman's general cell phone billing records and his American Express credit card statements.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, by layering this financial and billing data over the old burner phone activity logs, they found that his general locations perfectly matched the times and places the burner phones were active.
So they couldn't see the exact GPS dot, but they could see the neighborhood.
Right. And the burner phone and Horman were never, ever apart.
When the burner phone was in Massapequa Park, his personal phone, or Amex, was used in Massapequa Park.
When the burner phone traveled to Midtown Manhattan to make those taunting calls, Horman's personal phone was pinging just a fraction of a mile from his office at 19 West 36th Street.
It's brilliant. But the Evidence Solutions report shows his digital life was way more tangled than just burner phones. He had an entire web of aliases.
He had constructed a massive alternate reality. Horman used that same American Express card to pay for recurring Google Pay charges for a Tinder account.
Under a fake name.
The Tinder account was registered under the name Andy, which happens to be his middle name, Andrew.
A bit careless.
Very. And this Tinder profile was then linked to a burner AOL email address, SpringfieldMan9.
But he gets sloppy, right? Because the forensics show this AOL account was accessed directly from Horman's personal traceable Verizon phone for over 3 hours on a single day in December 2022.
He was sitting there logging into his secret burner identity from a device registered to his actual name.
And it gets darker. There was a Gmail account under the fake name Thomas Hawk connected to his burner phones. The search history on this account is staggering.
The court documents list the actual search queries. He used this Thomas Hawk account to conduct thousands of searches for sadistic torture pornography and child pornography.
Horrifying.
But perhaps most revealing from a psychological standpoint, he was conducting highly specific searches, monitoring the Gilgo Beach task force itself.
He was watching them.
He was looking up podcasts about the case. He was viewing photos of the victims' relatives. He even searched for the exact phrase, "Why hasn't the Long Island serial killer been caught?"
He's practically taunting the police through his search bar.
Exactly. The insights from the True Crime Today deep dive focus on this behavior. In the past, criminal profilers would look for the killer physically attending the victim's funeral or hanging around the crime scene.
To inject themselves into the investigation.
Right. In the 21st century, that behavior has moved online. By obsessively searching for the victims' families and task force updates, he was digitally revisiting his crimes and monitoring his adversaries.
He really thought it was a ghost. But all of this sophisticated digital, hiding the fake names, the burner emails, it was ultimately undone by a very real-world slip-up.
The T-Mobile store.
Yes, in May 2023, law enforcement caught him on a surveillance camera in a Midtown Manhattan T-Mobile store, physically buying minutes with cash to top up one of these exact burner phones.
But here is where the prosecution faces a massive hurdle.
How so?
Any defense attorney will look at that digital footprint and argue that it is purely circumstantial.
Well, okay,
You can prove he bought a phone. You can prove a phone was in the same neighborhood as his office. You can even prove he made disturbing Google searches. But you have to bridge the gap to actual physical proof.
right. You need a biological tie connecting Rex Heuermann to the bodies buried on that beach.
Yeah.
You have to prove he actually touched them. According to the documents, they had hairs from the original crime scenes. But why did it take until 2023 to get a match?
This is where the science takes a monumental leap forward. During the original autopsies in 2010, investigators found female human hairs on the bodies of Megan Waterman and Amber Costello.
But they couldn't test them back then.
Traditional DNA testing requires the root of the hair to be intact to extract a standard nuclear DNA profile. These hairs didn't have roots, and they were highly degraded from sitting in a coastal marsh.
So for years, they were practically useless.
But the new task force utilized cutting-edge technology called whole genome sequencing.
How does that differ from the old method?
Think of traditional DNA testing like needing a fully intact, unbroken mirror to see a reflection. Whole genome sequencing is different. It allows forensic scientists to look at the microscopic fragmented pieces of mitochondrial DNA left in the hair shaft itself.
So even without the root?
It's like sweeping up the dust of a shattered mirror and using a supercomputer to reassemble the reflection. Using this tech, a California lab finally extracted a usable mitochondrial DNA profile from those hairs found on the victims.
So they have the profile. Then investigators dig through Heuermann's trash outside his home in Massapequa Park.
They swab 11 discarded bottles.
And the DNA from the trash matches the hairs on the victims. But the twist here is that the DNA didn't belong to Rex Heuermann,
No, it belonged to his wife.
which is wild.
And this is where the MPOP database comes into play. It's a global database of mitochondrial DNA. By running the profile through MPOP, they determined that this specific genetic signature excluded 99.98% of the North American population.
It was definitively her hair.
Now, the implication here is crucial. The prosecution pulled travel and billing records that definitively proved Heuermann's wife was out of the state, traveling to Iceland, Maryland, and New Jersey during the exact windows of time these women were murdered.
She wasn't anywhere near Long Island.
She was completely out of the picture.
The logic is chilling. If she was in Iceland, the only way her hair ends up on a victim wrapped in burlap on Gilgo Beach is if Heuermann transferred it there himself, likely from his own clothing or from their shared home.
But even with that, the task force wanted his direct DNA.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's January 2023. Detectives are secretly tailing Heuermann around Manhattan.
Just watching his every move.
Right. They watch him eat a piece of pizza, and then he tosses the leftover crust and the box into a trash can on Fifth Avenue.
The detectives swoop in and retrieve that box.
They grab the crust.
The crime lab swabs the leftover pizza crust for his saliva. They then take that sample and compare it to a single male hair that had been found completely entangled in the bottom of the burlap wrapping used to conceal Megan Waterman's body 13 years earlier.
And the result comes back. The DNA profile from the pizza crust is the exact same as the male hair on the burlap.
Statistically, the match excluded 99.96% of the male population. And just to leave no room for doubt after his arrest, they took a direct buccal swab from his cheek, which formally confirmed the match to the burlap hair.
So on July 13, 2023, Rex Heuermann is arrested. The police spend 12 days tearing apart his home, pulling out over 200 firearms and 58 hard drives. He is charged with the murders of the Gilgo Four.
But anyone following the news knows the story didn't end there.
Not at all. In June 2024, the case explodes all over again with superseding indictments. I saw they expanded the timeline all the way back to 2003 and even 1993. What did the evidence show there?
The scope widened dramatically. Solving the Gilgo Four essentially created a forensic blueprint that allowed investigators to look at older, colder cases.
A whole new playbook.
Heuermann was additionally charged with the murders of Sandra Costilla in 1993 and Jessica Taylor in 2003. This pushes his alleged crimes back 17 years before the Gilgo Four were even discovered.
And the details surrounding Jessica Taylor's murder are particularly brutal. The court documents outlining what happened to her are horrifying.
Mm,
It shows a severe escalation or perhaps an earlier, messier methodology.
it does. According to the indictments, Jessica Taylor was decapitated, her arms were severed below the elbows, and a specific tattoo on her torso was severely mutilated with a sharp object.
To hide who she was.
Investigators believe this wasn't just sadism, it was a highly calculated effort to prevent her identification via facial recognition fingerprints or tattoo matching. Her remains were scattered. Her torso was found in Manorville in 2003, but her skull hands and forearm weren't found until 2011 near Gilgo Beach.
And once again, that dark green Chevrolet Avalanche comes back to haunt him. The court records note a witness from July 2003.
Right before she was found.
The night before Taylor's torso was discovered, a witness saw a dark-colored Chevy pickup truck backing into the exact wooded area in Manorville where she was found. Hoyerman had purchased his Avalanche just a year prior.
And this raises an important question about his digital paranoia. Even back in 2003, the early days of the modern internet, he was trying to cover his tracks.
How so?
Just days after the Manorville body was found, Hoyerman was actively searching online for a local news article about the discovery.
Keeping tabs again.
Immediately after that, he began searching for a new Chevrolet Avalanche in brighter colors like Arrival Blue and Summit White. He was actively trying to figure out how to replace his truck right after it was potentially spotted at the dump site.
But the real clincher for the Jessica Taylor charge, the thing that locks it in, is the DNA math. They found a male human hair on a surgical drape underneath Taylor's body. I read this statistic in the indictment, but can you explain the gravity of what the independent lab found?
This is where we move from mitochondrial DNA to nuclear DNA, which is the gold standard.
Okay.
The lab concluded that the nuclear DNA profile from that hair on the surgical drape was 1.837 times 10 to the power of 603 times more likely to belong to Rex Hoyerman than anyone else on the planet.
Wow. 10 to the power of 603.
To put that in perspective, that is a number with over 600 zeros after it. It is beyond mathematical certainty. It is a cosmic certainty. There are not enough atoms in the observable universe to contest that match.
A cosmic certainty. That is incredible phrasing. But defense attorneys love an alibi. How on earth did investigators prove where his family was in July of 2003, over 2 decades ago?
This might be the most brilliant piece of digital archaeology in the entire case.
Really?
During the search of his house, investigators found dozens of old hard drives. On one of them, they located a backup file for a Palm Pilot.
A Palm Pilot.
For those who don't remember, before smartphones, people used these little digital personal assistants. Using native early 2000s, Palm software investigators managed to extract his digital date book.
They got his old calendar.
They then cross-referenced these calendar entries with ancient AT&T landline billing records from his house and his architectural office.
They literally rebuilt his daily routine from 20 years ago.
Precisely. They proved that in July 2003, his wife and children were vacationing at Smuggler's Notch Resort in Vermont. Wow. The AT&T records showed Hoyerman was calling them in Vermont from his phone in New York. Just like with the Gilgo. 4 years later, his family was completely out of state. He had the time, the opportunity, the vehicle, and a cosmic certainty of DNA underneath the victim.
It is a breathtaking amount of evidence. Taking all of this in, you really have to wonder why this matters for your everyday life. Why should you care about all this highly technical data?
Yeah.
Palm Pilot's AT&T records AOL emails and whole genome sequencing.
It's a fair question.
Because it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the era of the untraceable criminal is dead and buried. You might think that using a fake name, logging onto a VPN, or buying a boner phone with cash makes you a ghost. But your digital footprint is enormous, and it is permanent.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the lesson here is that data is immortal.
Immortal, I like that.
Every app you use, every Wi-Fi network you walk past, every Google Pay transaction for a dating app leaves a permanent breadcrumb. It might be fragmented, spread across different corporate servers and old hard drives, but as this task force proved, those fragments can always be swept up and reassembled to form a crystal clear picture of your movements, your habits, and your secrets.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over. If a meticulous, highly organized serial killer, someone who actively researched law enforcement tactics, who used burner devices specifically to avoid detection, who operated under fake identities for over a decade, could still be completely unmasked by his own digital wallet, a 20-year-old Palm Pilot backup, and a tossed pizza crust, what does that mean for our everyday privacy?
It's a scary thought.
Think about how many invisible digital threads are tying your physical movements to your online life right now. Your smartwatch, tracking your pulse, your car's GPS, logging your route, The Bluetooth in your headphones, pinging every device you walk past on the street. Are any of us truly anonymous anymore?
Probably not.
We want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. It's a heavy subject, but an incredibly important one regarding how justice is served today. Keep questioning the world around you, and we'll catch you